question, who is Christ to you?
Today we have a special event, a little bit different than usual, because I'm not going to preach the sermon, you are. The question that Jesus posed to the disciples after he had had this active ministry, and then he left the Jewish territory, went up towards Caesarea Philippi. And when he's away from the crowds, they were still around, but he was traveling. And on the way, he asked them the question, who do the people say that I am? What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. What's going on? Well, you know, it's just like a few years back, people were still having Elvis sightings. I said, well, they think you're Elijah or one of the prophets. Some said John the Baptist. You're John the Baptist. Everybody knew he had his head chopped off, but his head got back on. He resurrected, and there he is again. They didn't know. It was all over. So Jesus turns the question immediately to them, who do you say that I am? Jesus had not gone around saying, I'm the Christ, I'm the Son of God. In fact, he often referred to himself as Son of Man. It just means the human one. I'm just a human being. But yet, something special was going on in his ministry of miracles, his healings, the kind of teaching, the authority that he seemed to have. And I want you today to reflect on a series of photographs of famous art. Most of it's famous art. Very little of it is Sunday school type, cheesy art. But most of it's great art. And what I would like for you to do, I'm going to show 4 slides. And think about those 4. I'll put each slide up for about 10 seconds. And then we'll have a little bit of talk. I want you to just say which slide spoke to you. I'm not looking for long sermons. I'm just saying it might be just a few sentences of that artist. Every artist is looking at the Bible and trying to get a meaning out of a text. And then they're trying to display that. What struck you? What speaks to you? I like to do art. I think you know that. And art speaks to me. I love to go look at a painting. Go into the museum down at Brandywine or Philadelphia. Just look at the paintings and see what's there. And some of those paintings, just the rich color and the form, and they have a message to give. And how does it strike you? We'll be having lots of people talk today, I hope. Feel free. All of us are involved in this sermon. So the first will be some narratives around the birth of Jesus. We have 2 accounts. Matthew and Luke had birth accounts of Jesus. And these disciples that were following Jesus, they had heard something about his birth. They knew something about it. But look how these artists depicted it. And just say, like maybe the second or the first one spoke to me, something like that. I'll put each one up for about 10 seconds. Our first series will be the birth of Jesus. Slides on that one. I guess you're only going to have 5. Which one of those slides spoke to you? Did anything that the artists do in that slide make something come alive in you? Yes, Judy?
The preciousness of a newborn baby.
The preciousness of a newborn baby. Okay. You can just sit in your seats and say it, and I'll say it for everybody to hear if I didn't think it was really loud. Yes, Anne-Marie.
I
Mary looking at the child.
You know, like, I'm sure, like, people know that feeling, like, of the miracle of life and that bond between you and your child.
And Jesus as an infant was greatly loved.
Right.
Yeah. Yes,
The first one, I think it was Mary and Joseph on their way, traveling with so much to look forward to, such a different life.
yeah.
That one made a big impression.
Being pregnant and riding on a donkey all the way to Jerusalem, right? That would have been a lot of fun, right? Yes.
The feeling of celebration with the three wise men bringing gifts for the birth.
Okay. Celebration. And we enact that often with our children on every Christmas Eve, don't we? The shepherds came in adoring and the adoration. Yes, Peggy?
She said what I was going to say.
Okay. All right. Let me go on to the next set then, okay? Oh, yeah, over here. Yeah, John.
The stained glass window.
Uh-huh.
I love that medieval, Gothic, Renaissance.
Right. You realize, do you know stained glass windows were the books of the illiterate? The churches decided that since so many people could not read and write, that they would put the Bible pictures up, and that was one of the traditions in Europe. And you can go to, we have beautiful stained glass windows, but they're not depicting the biblical scenes. But even the Baptist church has some wonderful Bible scenes over there. And I know some preachers in some churches have preached on the series of whatever was on their, on the stained glass window. Let's look at the next series. We're going to jump forward a little bit, about 12 years, to when Jesus was a child. We only have an account or so in the Gospels about Jesus being a child. As a young boy. Which of those pictures stood out to you?
First one,
Okay.
when Jesus was daring to speak, and he has his finger, in the air, and he's daring to speak in front of the elders, and, here he is just a boy, but he is daring to speak, and that took a lot of boldness on his part, and of course, many of them probably were a little bit dismayed to have this young child there to speak in front of them.
He's pointing to God, but he's also in the position that I'm a teacher.
Yes,
Yeah. And he's 12 years old,
yes.
the age of many of our confirmands. Yes.
Most of them were about Jesus speaking in the temple. I liked the one where he was just helping around the house doing chores, because it reminds us that he grew up as a normal child and had household chores and had to listen to his parents and all of those neat things that we don't read about in the Bible very often.
That's right. Except it said he went, after that event in the temple, he went and was subjected to his parents. And we know he was called, the carpenter's son. So he apparently helped around the carpenter shop, right? Okay. Good. Anybody else? Yes, Peg.
Do you think it's hard for them to find him as Jesus because he's a young boy?
Do you think it was,
grown up?
was it hard for them?
Yeah, wouldn't it be hard to accept him as Jesus because he's so young?
Yeah. How would you feel?
Right.
Except one of the interesting things in the text, it says, he was asking them, they were amazed at the way he was asking questions. He was just asking very important questions of them. That's what it says in the text. Yeah.
Number 3, I'm sure it was the older generation was speaking to the younger, yeah, and I.
Yeah, it said it was with elders, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Anything else in that series? Yes, Stephanie?
I was just thinking that for Jesus to ask questions, he obviously his parents invested in taking him to the temple, and he studied and he learned, and this was part of his discipline of his life as a child that his parents.
His parents had taken him to the temple as part of his discipline, right?
And that we need that time in our lives to learn to have a faith in our faith, to know who God is, and Jesus comes, took that path as a human being the same way that we did.
Okay, we're going to go forward now, and we're going to talk about one of the things we know about Jesus. He was a teacher. We'll be looking at some of, I think the next one is the teachings of Jesus. What did you see in those 4 slides? This was the first one, it really was only 4. Yes, John?
The second one where he's standing up reading the scroll with the prayer shawl on. He was Jewish.
Right. That captured the very Jewishness
Yeah.
of Jesus. Remember, he called for the scroll, and then he started reading from Isaiah. He read
Yes,
from
Isaiah
Isaiah
41,
61.
something like
The
that.
Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Brian?
I like the last slide. Everybody's listening and speaking. You see the tentative of the people.
The attendance of
Yeah.
people were, like amazed, right? What else did you see in that? Yes.
I like the series itself because no matter where he was, people gathered to listen to what he had to say.
He was in different places too. Kind of on a mountaintop. He was by the seaside. He said he got in a boat and pushed out because the crowds were pressing in and they couldn't hear him. So he got out and got a little distance and got his sound system going. Anybody else? Something in that series? Now the next,
Just as well, I liked it that it kind of implies that teaching can happen anywhere. I really enjoyed that part of it, that he taught everywhere, and teaching and learning can happen even outside of the temple, which I think is really important.
It didn't take a classroom. He found opportunities all along the way. Wonderful insight. Okay, now the next one, I'm going to do 2 different series. We'll do a series of 4, then another series of 4. I hope that's the way I got it. Jesus not only taught, but we also know him because he was a healer. We had that woven into a lot of our prayers, the healing. Jesus rights the wrong. Jesus makes us whole. Fill your lambs, and make us whole. Have well-being. Jesus was about that. Let's look at these pictures. These are more teaching, by the way. I'm going to skip that and go on to the next one. about healing. You had two more actual teaching ones that have another context. But what did you see in those healing ones?
Where she touched his robe.
The woman that touched his robe, was that like the last one?
Yes, the last.
And there was another one in there, yeah. Isn't that interesting? That was ancient Christian art, done on the wall of a catacomb, I think, where they painted when they went underground into the tombs to hold secret services when they were under some persecution. Yes, Doris? I can't hear you.
The faith that everybody had that Jesus could heal.
Yes.
Always people coming.
Yeah, there was a great amount of belief, faith that he would do it. And they came to him from everywhere. Anything else in that series?
Yes.
Yeah.
The one where it was the head of a guy and just the hand that kind of dissipated.
Uh-huh.
And I'm assuming that was Paul, healing of Paul. From
No.
the blindness.
That was the healing of the blind Bartimaeus.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
But to me it looked like it was just a hand and it kind of dissipated, meaning he can heal anytime.
Okay. All right. That's what it means to you. That's what it means then.
Yeah.
That's right. Art is there for us to interpret. Yes, Stephanie.
I was just thinking of how many times I've gone to the teachings of Jesus and, tried to find a meaning for my life, and it wasn't always clear, reading it, because they don't always make sense, and it's something you kind of have to persist with, but obviously people were very hungry, and then I thought about the thing that struck me was the touch. It seemed like, a lot of those pictures, Jesus was touching people. And I'm sitting next to Mary, and I know part of her job is touching people, taking care of them.
That's right. One place it said he spit on the ground and he made mud and put it on man's eyes. He didn't go to seminary and take boundaries or his course on boundaries. He actually spit and touched a man's tongue one time.
Sometimes,
I don't do that in my office very often.
there's a lot of, when you reach out to people and that they can in healthcare, that too, touching people, it's not exactly maybe the kind of miracles that Jesus did, but it can be a hand.
Let's look at a few more on the healings. Reflection on those? Tom.
Anything with healing, basically. The question I always ask myself is, what if these miracles were being performed today?
Okay.
What would that do to Christianity in today's world?
What would it do if that kind of miracle was happening today? And I've heard of these kind of miracles that happen now and then, here and there, into today. Amazing. All right. The next, let's get ready for this. Those sort of stand out to you? Yes.
The first and the last, giving comfort, which is so important and special.
Bringing
today.
comfort to people.
Yes, just being there and
compassion and comfort being translated. Yes, Joyce? Say again?
Compassion.
Showed the faith that people had in him.
The faith. Okay, people were looking to him. Do you see that woman reaching for the hem of his garment? Yeah.
I think it was the second one where he's with the young guy.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The strength in his forearm, wrist, and hand.
Uh-huh.
And yet he was so gentle.
Yeah. He was healing a blind man.
I assume he
I
was.
think, yeah.
The young guy. But the strength that was there.
Okay. There's the man that's being let down. That was the faith of his friends. There's the Gadarene demoniac. Remember that? There's the 10 lepers. There's an African portrayal of Jesus and the man that was let down from from the roof in a hut. The next series I'd like us to think about are Jesus' parables. We're going to take just a few moments on those. Parables in there. Which ones did you recognize? The lost sheep. You know, what shepherd has 100 sheep, loses one, leaves the 99 and goes and gets the one. Are you one of those sheep?
Good,
We
Good
are.
Samaritan.
You got us one day. Right? What else stood out to you in that?
Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan.
The Good Samaritan. We had a Van Gogh on that one and another one. That was beautiful, right? Anybody else? Yes, George. The walking on the water? I don't remember it in there, but he did walk on the water as a miracle. I didn't see it in that series. Let's look at another series. These are parables too. Recognize any of those parables?
Prodigal son.
The what?
The first one where she had the lantern, she wasn't hiding it. I don't know if that was it.
It was actually, that was an Asian woman, but it was the parable of the woman who lost the one coin. It was the lost sheep, the lost coin. It said she swept, and looked around everywhere and found the one lost coin, and then it was also the lost son. It's rather striking, the one, I've seen the real painting of the one and him and the kid in the pig pen, the young guy in the pig pen, contemplating he needs to get up and go back home where he gets 3 square meals a day. But then it was the famous Rembrandt painting where the son has come and has fallen at the father's, fallen on his knees in front of the father, and the father embraces. And then it was the one where the father was embracing. Powerful. Okay, Jesus meets people. encounters of Jesus with people. Did you recognize some of them? Which one spoke to you?
The woman at the well.
The woman at the well. That was kind of an amazing picture, I thought.
Yes.
Let me see if I can get it back up.
Two
You
faces.
notice something strange about the woman at the well?
She has 2 faces.
Yeah, what do you think that means? Has 2 faces. What did Jesus offer her? Living water. You know, she was a changed person, and in that little, 2 different perspectives, one dark face and one light, as hope is beginning. She dropped her water pot, she ran into the town, right? Anybody else on that one? Yes, Emery. The woman at the foot, at his foot, looking up, crying.
Her tears look so real, like almost as if everything's gonna work out now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Jesus showed compassion on this woman. That the Luke version, where she was a sinful woman that came in and began to cry and pray, and the Pharisee wanted to kick her out of the house, and Jesus welcomed her and said, she's been forgiven much, so she's loving much. Let me show you another series, and we will end. That series that really strikes you? The real ugly? What do you think that was saying, Brenda? There was a passage in Isaiah that says there was no form or comeliness that we should desire him. He was marred, speaking of his crucifixion and the way they beat him up, beat him in the face and whipped him and everything, that there was nothing beautiful to desire about that. He was marred more than any man. So I think that the suffering of the Christ. Anybody see something else they particularly like?
Well, personally, I saw it as the different phases of life that we all go through. The
Okay.
sadness, the happiness, all the different phases.
And we see that in Jesus. They have
Yes.
the laughing Christ, the man of sorrows. We have the Christ, tender with children, loving. They weren't afraid of him to come up to him. He wasn't stern and bossy or anything. Yes?
Very similar. I saw victory in one face
Victory?
and suffering.
Okay. And that's part of our story too. There's many different faces of Christ. Different artists have portrayed him in a number of ways, both ancient and modern ways. And there's almost anything that has been portrayed is portraying one phase of something about Christ that also relates to us. It says he was made like his brothers and sisters, yet without sin. He was one of us. And one of my favorite pictures of the Christ is this one. If you look closely at it, of course it's Christ on the cross, but there's many, many famous people embedded in the head of Jesus. They say that Christ is for all people, and the goodness of Christ has flowed through people who sometimes did not even name the Christ, but showed respect. Let's prepare to end our service today. Let's see if I can find my... Let's all